Florida is a huge supporter of the warfighter effort. The companies that we have here are helping to protect our men and women who are serving, and that its focus of missiles and SAT and communications and guidance are critical to the current development efforts that the U.S. military has underway, and we support that. The current defense budget, it looks very attractive, and there's a lot of design work going on, which we welcome and we're able to support because of our knowledge and connections with the engineers and the program managers that are leading this.
Well, a good example is L3Harris in Melbourne, Florida, Palm Bay, Florida. This is their corporate headquarters for the whole world. There are 6,000 people here in Florida. And we literally know hundreds and hundreds of people there, particularly in engineering and at the corporate level. So there's always a lot of work to it. As a matter of fact, we double team.
We tag team that.
Tag team Harris. And we have a lot of lunches with them because of the COVID problems in the past. You can't go in there, although now you finally can start to go in there with some paperwork you got to fill out for them.
Yes.
But you can start visiting them now. But we've been doing a lot of lunches with engineers at Mima's barbecue place in Palm Bay. So one of their favorite joints. And we get a chance to sit back there on one of the picnic tables and eat barbecue and talk about their designs.
Yes.
So and then you have L3Harris, which is huge. You have also Lockheed Martin, which is missile fire control. They're doing Hellfire missile there. They're doing LRasm there. They're doing a hypersonic missile. There's probably, again, 6,000 or 7,000 people there. They built a new building. They've got 600 engineers alone working on hypersonic missile. Wow. So if you're not in Florida, if you don't live, sleep, and eat Florida design work, you're not going to know who these people are. And I might add that since we cover L3Harris, which is a corporate location, we do get from them a lot of corporate information, which we pass on to all of our principals.
Yes,
so we try to provide you with that information. You see what they're doing, where they're doing it, their other locations. I mean, a lot of people don't know. You go to the L3Harris website, for example, and they list by not every state, but many states, all their locations. It's a one-sheet thing. It's wonderful. So you go, what's in Massachusetts, what's in Utah, what's in Florida, what's in California. It's wonderful. We've sent those to principals, and it's a real eye-opener for some of them, where some of these locations are and what they do. Because often they think everything is done here in Florida. It's not. They got, 60 facilities in the U.S.,
yes,
including the big ones in the RF, the two-way radios in Rochester, New York, the ones in Virginia for the radios. So they have a number of facilities around. So we try to supply that corporate information. So we try to go above and beyond to give you information on what to do. We also have a few other smaller places here that do some submersibles and things like that, but it's very low volume. But we do have Triton submarines, for example, which are beautiful submarines in Sebastian, Florida. There's one in Riviera Beach that does some for the commercial oil industry. So we have little niches like that. We also have about probably 40 contract manufacturers in Florida.
I forgot about that, Walt.
And assemblers that do cable assemblies. There's a lot of them. And they focus a lot on military. A lot of them are hub zone, for example. Just one up in Melbourne area, which does a lot of business with L3Harris, for example. So we support them for RF cable. We sell them a lot of RF cable. There's also a number of smaller places that buy RF cable and resell or support Harris or Lockheed or anybody else. So, and some of that's through distribution. So, it's important for us to support distribution, support those principals that have distribution, and support the principals do that directly with some of these subcontractors. So we visit them, we see them, we talk to them all the time. We work a lot with them, carbon copy the principals. So we see a lot come from these smaller accounts, there's no question about that. We do have some lines that have some limited distribution, so we do work with the Futures, the Advents, and the Arrows, and the DigiKeys of the world, and we know who these people are in Florida. Although even that's an ever-changing landscape because there's been a lot of consolidations between offices and people, and there's been some new people have been on board, some new regional guys, new GMs, et cetera. But we do support distribution. We also represent a company called Microwave Components in Stuart, Florida. And by virtue of their name, what they do is all microwave components. So they're very specific. Many of their customers in Florida are the military customers, the same ones that we call on. So it's an advantage for us because if someone's working on and needs a prototype part, we can go to them and get it. And we can refer them to them. So that's been a help for us. And plus, when you work with distribution, as you do with anybody in any business, you learn things. You learn about something you didn't know. A customer you may not have known, or an engineer at this place you don't know. So you get additional information for follow-up. So a lot of your information you get for people to see and places to go comes from your relationships and with distribution. Always has and probably always will, because they always have some insight that you don't, and you have insight that they don't. So it kind of works out. It's more of a symbiotic relationship than anything.
Florida, out of the southeast, if you look at the Carolinas and Alabama and Georgia, et cetera, the rest of the Dixie states, the government GDP dollars for military sales is greater in Florida than all of those combined. And it's because of the accounts that we call on. Walt and I, we double team L3Harris, Collins, DRS, Honeywell, Raytheon, BAE, Crane, Eglin Air Force Base. There's more, but once again, the model that Walt and Ron set up years ago, we are truly focused on the military aerospace accounts, and we spend most of our time there.
Aerospace goes hand in hand with the military, obviously in avionics.
Yes.
People like Rockwell Collins that we have in Florida, for example. So yeah, it goes hand in hand with that business. And of course, aerospace is a broad term for space, satellites, commercial, military. There's a huge commercial market now with the Amazon and Blue Origin up in Tampa, in the Melbourne area. They're launching from the same places the Redstones launched when I was a kid watching the astronauts go up into space, the Mercury astronauts. So that's a big market, the commercial business. And you're seeing in the commercial business, we're learning that they're making not necessarily military components, but not necessarily S-level, but there's another NASA standard they're going to, which is less expensive, so they keep the cost down, works just as well. And plus, if Elon Musk is sending up 100 satellites small satellites in spacecraft, if he loses 30 of them, he doesn't care, because he kept his costs right down. He's still got 70 of them up in space. So that is changing. That's a changing market, and we're learning about that, and we try to educate our principals about that as well.
L3Harris has expanded its manufacturing footprint to support space. So space is going to be critical to our growth in the future. It's a market we've been supporting for 17 years, but more so in the last 10 years. It's just continued to escalate because of the threats we're seeing around the world.
Yeah, it is, and they have expanded their manufacturing base, L3 for space. They also opened a facility last year in Fort Wayne, Indiana for space. So we advise a lot of our principals to be there with the products you have, and you should be talking to those people as well. Lockheed expanded for space. They hired 1,000 engineers in the last couple of years, I think there.
Yeah.
Honeywell has expanded.
And Walt, didn't L3 also reduce one of their business units? They have 3 now.
L3Harris, they had one time they had 5, they went to 4, now they have 3. So they've combined their units even more.
Business units.
Their costs are doing very well, their sales are up, and their profits are up. So they've combined their 3 business units, which actually 2 of them are essentially here, but they have other locations around the country and around the world. Yes. So yeah, they have done that. The trends in Florida continue to be more military. Florida's a very friendly business state.
Yes, it is.
And they bring in a lot. For example, they gave a lot of money to DRS to bring in some new facilities here, some new development. Eglin Air Force Base up in the Panhandle, which Terry goes to about 3 times a year. Many reps don't even cover, but we do a significant amount of business up there supporting the companies like DRS and BAE that support Eglin. That's been successful for us. We've done very well. We have a lot of information on those folks up there and what they're doing. And there's a place, like SAF Batteries, which we don't really do a lot of business with, but they have a large facility where they manufacture batteries up in Jacksonville, and that came from the governor going after them and bringing them, giving them a big incentive package and doing well. So Florida's a very business-friendly state. And we have a high concentration. When you got 6,000 people at L3Harris, and 6,000 at Lockheed Martin, and 4,000 at Honeywell, what is that? That's 14,000, 15,000 people that are engineers that work here. So you have a real technology base of people, plus several universities to support all that. So you're not going to see any of these people leaving Florida anytime soon. It's going to continue to grow, and you continue to see more business coming. Israeli companies that come in to the Orlando area. You still have Northrop Grumman in the Orlando area. Yes. Northrop Grumman brought in all their folks, 400 people from Long Island when they closed that facility. They're now in Melbourne. On the new B-2 Spirit bomber. And we have some designs on that. So it continues to grow. I see it being very successful next 5-6 years. Particularly at places like Lockheed Martin in Honeywell with the guidance systems because the new guidance systems go hand in hand with, for example, what they're doing in missile and fire control at Lockheed Martin.